All right, so since it's Friday already, ideally it would have been cool to do a Jets Pats post game video the day after, but there wasn't much to cover there. I will talk about that a little bit. Just a couple of things I want to talk about in this video. Week 4, right? Chiefs coming up Sunday night, and some news this week with Zach, right? Some shit going on with Zach. So we'll cover all that, all right? So I think I'm just going to combine one video here. It's just it'll be a week 4 video. So we'll do the Jet Pats breakdown, which will literally be fucking 1 minute. We'll talk about Zach, and we'll end the video with the Jets Chiefs prediction. All right. If you see me glancing this way, it's because I have some notes over here. All right. So let's see. Jets Pats post game breakdown. Listen, there wasn't much to be happy about in that game. Once again, we lose to the Patriots. That is becoming sickening to me, to be honest with you. There's no reason why they can't beat this fucking team at this point. Actually, there is one reason why, and I think it's becoming obvious now. Zach Wilson is not a capable quarterback, okay? Listen, last week I gave him some prompts after, what game was that? The Dallas game. I said he looked like maybe he was making some progression, and you know what? I think it was high hopes, man. I actually think this guy is done for the team. Like, literally. I think they're going to trade him. I think you have to trade him at this point. Now, here's the deal with Zach, okay? I guess that's the Jet Pats breakdown right there. Fucking lost to them again, and it does lead right into what I'm about to say, all right? So, okay, here's what I think is the deal with fucking Zach Wilson, all right? At this point, I just think he's mental, and I don't think he can recover from the damage he has sustained with this team up to this point, okay? With the benching, Rodgers coming in, Rodgers getting hurt, him coming in now and playing poorly again. There's a lot of pressure on him again. I just think he's done mentally. Listen, unless this is the only thing that can happen that can save this guy's career and save his career with the Jets, in my opinion, all right? He would have to come out Sunday night, all right, and not only beat the Chiefs, but look good doing it, okay? Now, is that going to happen? I don't think so. Is it possible? Yes. Maybe he shocks the world. He comes out. He throws for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. They shock the Chiefs. And you know what? Then there is light at the end of the tunnel with him, and there's promise with him if he does that. Is he going to do that? I just don't see it happening. All right? So now let's go the other way. If he comes out and plays poorly again with the Chief game, okay? That, to me, is it. He is done after that. What are you going to do? Are you going to just, sacrifice the rest of the season? Which let's look at how much talent goes to waste if you keep this guy in playing poorly. For some reason, he cannot fucking utilize Garrett Wilson. Everybody else who comes in to play quarterback for this team with Garrett Wilson, they utilize him. He has great games. Fucking Zach comes in. It's like he can't find Garrett Wilson. That's his problem. He cannot see the field. There was one thing where I was watching in the post game last week where they were showing you like a couple of clips of the game, the Patriot game, and they're like freeze it, and they show you the footage where they're like, look, this fucking guy is open right here. Like Wilson should be throwing to this guy right now, and he's not. And the guy is running his route. And then when he does finally throw to the guy, it's too late. The guy is either like close to out of bounds at this point or covered at this point. It goes for an incompletion, but they show you how he's not able to read the field. And listen, that's not a secret at this point, you know? It's been his problem now since he's come into the league. So listen, as far as Zach Wilson goes, okay? And I said this going back to before they drafted him. I didn't want this guy. I felt like they were reaching. You know, they had the Lawrence pick. They had the Trevor Lawrence pick. And Gase, that fucking asshole, what does he do? He can't win a fucking game the entire time he's the fucking Jets head coach. And then he decides to win like the last 2 games of that season and knocks them out of the Trevor Lawrence pick. That guy fucked this franchise every which way you can fuck a franchise. So they lose the Lawrence pick, right? And now I think they just created this imaginary like story that Zach Wilson was the second best pick of that draft. And, you know, to be honest with you, I don't think that was a good quarterback draft to begin with. Even Lawrence is not playing that good, right? So, I mean, Lawrence isn't playing. He had a good year last year, but he's not playing up to the level he was projected to play either. And the rest of the quarterbacks in that draft seem to be shit. So, you know, but like reaching for Zach at number 2 that year, I just knew it. There was just something that just didn't feel right about it with me. So anyway, you know, I can sit here and babble about this shit with him all night long. But the reality is this, okay? If he does not play good in this Chief game, then I think you have to bench him. And now they got Trevor Siemian, right? Okay? Trevor Siemian, okay, even though the guy hasn't won a game in like fucking 7 years or whatever the fuck it is, right? He used to be on the Jets, remember? Until Myles Garrett destroyed his ankle that night. I was actually at that game when it happened. But Trevor Siemian to me is he's like a Mike White type of quarterback. He's in the pocket. And speaking of Mike White, why the fuck did they let him go, man? That's another thing. Okay, so now back to the Zach thing, quick. A big problem with the organization here is that they can't swallow their fucking pride. Or maybe I should say they can't swallow their mistake that they made with drafting Wilson number 2. It's almost like, look, I get it. You drafted him number 2, but it's time to let him go. Admit to your mistake. It happens. What are you going to do? It's the roll of the dice when you draft these guys. So just let that go. Swallow your mistake and move on. If he plays bad against the Chiefs, I think you have to bench him and then trade him. It doesn't matter what you get for him. Listen, you're not going to get a lot for him anyway. He has proven that he is like basically nothing in this league except maybe a backup. All right? I don't even know if this guy will stay in the league, to be honest with you. So get whatever you can for him. Trade him. He's got to get off the team at this point. You have to go in a whole new fucking direction at this point, okay? So going back to Siemian, watch when he plays, when he comes into play, because it's almost like it's inevitable to me. Wilson's going to get benched, all right? Simeon's going to come in and play. And all of a sudden, you're going to see Garrett Wilson have a 150-yard receiving game with 2 touchdowns at least, okay? Like, that's what happens when Wilson leaves the game and another quarterback comes into play. So that is what's going to happen. It's going to confirm that his career is done as a Jet. Get him off the team. Just trade him. Admit the mistake. Get him off the team, all right? Then, where are we now? Because it's like it goes in circles in my fucking head with this shit. You know, I want to go back to Mike White for a second, all right? Again, what they should have done, okay, when they were bringing Rodgers in, what they should have done was you got rid of the wrong quarterback. And I said this at the time. They should have been letting Zach Wilson go, kept Mike White. Mike White should have learned under Rodgers, all right? And at this point, with Rodgers down, Mike White in, I guarantee you they'd be looking a hell of a lot better than they do now with Wilson. So, huge mistake getting rid of Mike White. And I know I'm not the only person who feels that way. It's only because they could not swallow their fucking mistake They drafted Wilson number 2, so automatically that means you have to keep the guy. No, it doesn't. Look at what they did. Look at what the Cardinals did with that that fucking guy who, I don't even think that guy saw the fucking field. Rosen, was it? I mean, what a fucking buff. At least the Cardinals were able to swallow their mistake and draft, you know, another quarterback, number 1 the following year. So, you know, and who else? And the Niners. The Niners, listen, look at the Niners. They gave up three number 1 fucking picks for Trey Lance, okay? And they were at least big enough and smart enough to say, all right, look, we fucked up. They got him off the team, and they went in another direction. That's what the Jets need to do now, okay? So, Kyle Murray, right? I couldn't think of his name before. You know, with the Cardinals. Like, they got rid of Rosen and drafted Kyle Murray the next year, right? So, which I think was an awesome move. I think what the Niners did was awesome. The Jets now need to do that, okay? So, now where are we with all this shit, okay? Now we are, you know, listen, to me, it's very simple. The Sunday night game against the Chiefs is going to literally just lay the carpet out for the rest of the season with everything, I think. If he has another bad game, he's done. You have to go in another direction. Again, you're going to waste all of the fucking talent on this team if you just keep this guy at quarterback. The only advantage of keeping this guy at quarterback for the rest of the season is you'll be tanking the season at that point, in my opinion. Only to do the inevitable anyway, which would be to then move him off the team. So, just do what you got to do here, man. So, getting back to what I'm saying, Sunday nights will tell the tale. He will, you know, we'll see. We'll see what he does. So, before I get to the Jet-Chiefs prediction, which I think you kind of know what direction I'm heading in with that prediction. I want to just cover one more thing here, all right? It goes all the way back to when they were playing around with the idea of bringing in another quarterback. You know, you kind of had the feeling that they wanted Rodgers, but at the time you were like, would they really go after Rodgers? I'm talking about around that time, when all the other quarterbacks were still available to choose from, all right? If you go back and look at my videos, okay? I said it in a few videos at that time. I said they shouldn't be looking at Rodgers. Who they should be looking at was, in my opinion, Derek Carr, okay? Because at least Derek Carr is in his prime. He's still young enough to be on a team for another 7-8 years if he stays healthy. And to me, they could have built a team with Carr, all right? And Carr is not a bad quarterback at all, and he's a tough quarterback. I think Carr could have really done well with this team, all right? And don't give me the bullshit, oh, he didn't want to play there, he wanted to play in New Orleans. Listen, the reason why he chose the Saints over the Jets or whatever is because I think when he came to visit the Jets, they didn't make him feel like he was their number one pick. I'm telling you, that is just my gut feeling. They had an agenda with Rodgers. He knew it, and he probably went to the Saints organization, interviewed, and they let him know, you are the guy we want, all right? The Jets, I don't think, did that with him. And to me, that's how they lost Carr. And then I remember putting out another video, all right? This was after Carr was gone, okay? And Rodgers, the whole Rodgers thing was still up in the air, right? I put out a video saying, why aren't they even considering Baker Mayfield, all right? Unless, and I said it in the video, unless there's something going on with that dude, like behind closed doors that the public doesn't really know about, but teams know about, why weren't they considering? They didn't even consider him. He's younger than Carr. The fucking guy is as competitive as you can be as a quarterback, and I think he would have fit this team perfectly. And he is who I wanted the Jets to draft in that draft when they had the number 3 pick. The Browns picked him at number 1, and then I said, all right, he's gone. You got to draft Allen. They didn't do it. They drafted Donald. So, and we all know how that turned out, and we all know how Allen's career turned out. So, but I was like, we have a chance to get Mayfield here, who I wanted back when he was coming out. Why didn't even consider this guy? And he looks like he's doing pretty good with the Bucs. So, I don't know, man. Another guy you could have gotten for not that high of a price, probably, and you could have built your whole team around this guy. You know? Again, it's not that I'm anti-Rodgers. It's just that I didn't want Rodgers to begin with because he's at the end of his career. Now, when they signed him, of course I got on board with it because I'm a Jet fan. And, all right, he's here. So now, because he's here, let's do something. Let's do something with the guy. You know, even if he's only going to be here for 2 or 3 years, maybe he can pull off the miracle and take us to the bowl. So I got on board with it, and we know how that turned out, all right? It is what it is. So I think that's about it. We're going to get to the Chiefs prediction now. Let me just see if I think I covered everything, man. I covered everything. So one last thing with Zach. If you bench him again, okay? If you bench this guy again, okay? That's it. You can't, he has to be done. You can't be like, oh, he's now going to sit again and learn again, and we still think he's going to be great. It's it. If you bench this guy again for his poor play, that is it. You have to fucking trade him, because otherwise now he is going to be a distraction on the team. Move on. If you bench him again, you have to move on. Trade him. I don't care who you bring in. We'll look forward to Rodgers next year, whatever. I mean, like I said, they fucked up. They could have had Carr or Baker Mayfield, and they didn't even consider. I mean, they talked to Carr. They didn't even consider Mayfield. So that's it. Unless you pull something like really unexpected next year in the draft, and maybe you trade half the draft away for a quarterback, because from what I understand, next year's crop of quarterbacks is pretty good. So maybe there's one that we could, you trade a couple of number ones, and you go invest. You have Rodgers coming back. You let him learn under Rodgers for like 2 years. Boom. That might be the way to go. So, but you got to, like I said, if he plays bad again, if he gets benched, That's it. It's over. You got to fucking trade the guy. So, Jets Chiefs prediction for this Sunday night. Listen, I am always ambitious with my picks. It's almost comical how I usually pick them to win almost every fucking week. It's almost like I can't help myself because I'm such a fucking Jet fan. But I don't see them beating the Chiefs. And that's only because of the Zach Wilson problem. All right? I think if they had another quarterback, if Rodgers was in, I think I'd be picking them to win. It would just be it would have been a different team with Rodgers or anybody else, even Mike White. If he was still on the team, I think they would have had a shot at beating the Chiefs. I think it would have been a different season, even if Mike White was still on the team. But this guy I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. And I actually think his career is over. I think his career is over as a Jet. So, like I said, unless he pulls some type of a unbelievable career game out of his ass, he is not staying on this team too much longer. I just don't see it. So, with him at quarterback, I gotta say it's a Chief victory. That takes them to 1-4. 1-4. No, 1-3. I'm sorry. I already got them at 1-4. It's the fourth game. They'll be 1-3. So, but still 1-3 already. Like, what the fuck? With the Eagles coming in like another week or two. And they got to fly out to Denver. And with the way they're playing, offensively anyway, and Denver just got fucking embarrassed. Oh, my God. Quick. I need to just mention that game. That was incredible what fucking Miami did to them. I think it's a mixture of Miami just like, and I said this in my last video, all right? I said this in my last video. I said, we got to keep an eye on Miami. That was before they scored 70 fucking points in a game, which was just, I never saw a team score 70 in my lifetime, I don't think. So, not in my lifetime, I don't believe. So that was pretty wild to see. Now you really have to keep an eye on Miami. And, huge game coming up with Miami and Buffalo. Huge. And I'm so psyched that they're going to televise that. So, maybe a quick prediction on that game right now. Wow. That's in Buffalo. I think Miami's going to take that game, man. I think Miami is going to show the league that they are no fucking joke this year. And Tua, that is some draft class, okay? Right? That's some draft class, man. Burrow, Tua, and Herbert. There's your top three quarterbacks picked in that draft. And I was saying for like maybe a year or so, I thought Tua was a bust because I was like, the guy he has an injury problem. Can't stay on the field. But when that guy is healthy, man, from what I've seen, that guy is a very, very, very good quarterback. So, and just look at what they did last week. Look at what they do when he's healthy. He can play, man. And if that guy can stay healthy, that is some quarterback draft. It rivals the Eli Roethlisberger Rivers draft, in my opinion. So, and I like Buffalo. I like Buffalo. If you watch some of my videos, I talk about it. I even did a Buffalo video last year. But I think Miami is no fucking joke. Miami actually almost beat Buffalo last year in the playoffs without Tua, remember? So I think Buffalo has a game and a half in front of them with Miami coming in, especially off of that smoking victory. Uh, that game is still smoking. What a fucking. I think that was a combination of Miami just like exploding and Denver just quitting. I mean, how do you let somebody score 70 points unless you completely have given up, right? So, all right, this video is just way too long right now, but it is what it is. So let's finalize it. All right, I don't think the Jets, going back to the Chiefs prediction, I don't think the Jets have it in them to beat the Chiefs this Sunday night, and it's only because the season has already gone south because of all of this Zach Wilson bullshit, and that's pretty much it. So, like I said, unless some type of a miracle happens and this dude has like a career game, I don't see them beating the Chiefs. And I don't think it will be such a bad thing either if they lose to the Chiefs and he has a poor game, because then at least you know you have to get him off the team. You bench him and then you fucking trade him at some point. You do it quietly. You bench him. You say all the right things, and then one day he's gone. You just trade him. And that's it. That's what you have to do at this point. So, all right. There it is. A encapsulated week 4 Jet video. You have the post game from last week, the prediction for this week, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. I will definitely try to do smaller videos throughout the week. I'm trying to stay engaged with the Jet channel this year, so I will really try to get a short video out, a post Jet Chiefs video. And then if something develops during the week, maybe something on that. And then I will do a prediction for the Denver game, which I believe is the next game of the season. All right. Enjoy the game.